Sallim ala Rasulil Kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So since we already did a recap yesterday, we'll just move on today, inshallah. So we are at the place where the people are standing at the chasm, and the hellfire is right there. And they realize that they cannot cross. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells them, yu'ta bil jasar, that a bridge will be brought. And it will be spread out against the expanse of the hellfire. فَيُجْعَلُ بَيْنَ ظَهْرَيْ جَهَنَّمْ. That means it will be spread out like that. So the companions, they say, Ya Rasulullah, wa mal jasar? What is this bridge, O Prophet of Allah? So now the Prophet, he starts describing the bridge. So he goes, madhadatun mazilla. It's a very slippery place, which is also very unstable, so there's no traction on it. So when you're walking, there's one thing to be slippery, and the other thing is that it's so unstable that even when you put your foot on something, your whole foot doesn't go flat, because it's unstable. So a part of the foot will touch it, but not all of it. So even that part that's touching, it's going to slip. So if a surface is unstable and it's slippery, it's almost, it becomes very difficult to walk on. And then he says, alayhi khatatif wa kalalib, that there are hooks on it and claws on it. Usually it's used for iron, the terms in Arabic. So like iron claws and hooks on it. They're suspended on it. And then he says that, now the Sahaba are thinking, okay, so he's going to describe the bridge, and first when he just says that it's unstable and it's slippery, he's like, okay, that's very difficult to walk on. And then he goes that there are iron claws and there are hooks that are suspended over there. So okay. And then he goes, wa hasakatun, that there are broad thorns on it. And they're like, okay, so maybe one can step on them. And then he goes, laha shawkatun, uqayfa, that there are small, even the thorns that are a little broad from the base, even they have spikes on them. So when you can't really step on the spikes then. So that, and then he gives them an analogy to understand. He goes, takunu bin najad, the same, yuqalu laha as-sa'dan, that there's a tree in Najd that they would call it sa'dan, and it's it has a twig, it's a dry tree, and there are a lot of spikes on it. So he goes, so even the broad thorns, they have spikes on them, just like the spikes that we have over there. So now the Sahaba radiyallahu ajma'in, they're thinking, they're naturally just worried. They're like, okay, then how is it crossable? How is this even a bridge then? So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, al-mu'min alayha, but the person who has iman inside of them, when he gets on top of it and he starts crossing it, he says, katarf, it will be like a blink of an eye for him. Wakal barq, or like lightning, the speed of light, basically. Like with the speed of light. Wakar rih, or a strong gust of wind, like going hundreds of kilometers an hour. It's a long bridge. It's going to take a while. It spreads across a part of hell. So clearly it's going to take, even if it takes years to cross, at least that person is going at 100 kilometers an hour or miles an hour over such weird terrain. And then I'm giving you the narration from Bukhari, but there are other narrations as well, which give other grades as well. Just to put it in chronological order, there's one that says qatayr, like birds. And then waka ajawid al-khayl, the best of horses, warrikab, and racing mounts, camels. And now again, I'm moving from the Bukhari narration to another one. There's one that say, or very strong men that are running, And then there's one more. Inshallah, we'll discuss this afterwards, not today. So he says that, Rawahu Bukhari, this is the end of the narration. I'm like, okay. So now, what determines, you notice that there's an order to this, right? There's a descending order. The first one is going with a blink of an eye or the speed of light. The other one's going a little bit slower, but still like as fast as wind. And then the other one's like a really good horse or other racing mounts, etc. So what determines the speed of the believer? So clearly there's a difference between the believers. They're not all the same. We still remember what we were discussing, right? The hadith that this all started from, the Isha and the Fajr, right? So to get to this, do we understand the architecture of the bridge, by the way? Is it understood? Because if it is, then I have a question. I have a question. So if it's not understood, then we can. Do you remember we said something about a narration from Abu Sa'id al-Khadri, that is sharp as a sword, fine as a hair? Remember that? How do these things exist on something that's as sharp as a sword and as fine as a hair? Hooks, thorns, claws. How? This is again going back to the law of reciprocity. Remember we did that initially? Allah is saying, you are braving the darkness for me. When there is no light, I will take care of you then. So this is similar as well. The muhaddithin and the ulama, the scholars, including Imam Ibn Qayyim also, rahimahullah, they say that this bridge, it's actually a manifestation, a physical manifestation of the Sirat that the person used to, we call it Sirat, right? Even the bridge is called Sirat. It is the manifestation of the Sirat that the person used to walk on in his life. You know, right now when we do Fatiha, what do we say? Ehdi Sirat al-Mustaqim. Guide us on the straight path. If he's actually on the straight path, Sirat al-Mustaqim, the way he was supposed to be, the bridge will be good for him. But if he's not, if in his life he would always cut corners, he would always be walking and getting into, doubtful stuff or doing things that he shouldn't be doing, then there will be more thorns, there will be more claws. And this architecture of the bridge, these are not just random things that are just going to be present on every bridge. We will go into inshallah detail as well tomorrow about this. That how do these things work? These thorns, these claws, how do they work and why do they work that way? So we get that as well from the riwayat. And what determines the speed of the believer and how does Fajr and Isha factor into this? That inshallah also we will discuss either tomorrow or the day after if we don't finish tomorrow. So may Allah Azza wa Jal give us an understanding of the hadith that we read or listen to, and may He enable us to act on them the way they should be acted on. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi.